Friends, welcome back to our third and final part of our three-part series on the LGBTQ plus community. Our guest and subject matter expert, Mr. Suresh Ramdas, will focus today's episode on how one can make workplaces more inclusive. Why are inclusive spaces important? Not just because it's the right thing to do, but it also makes business sense. An inclusive workplace is a safer workplace and one that's more productive. So, what can business leaders do to make workplaces more inclusive? What are the policies that one needs to roll out within the organization? Even something as simple as the language that we use on a daily basis can make a big difference. We will be discussing all of these and more in today's session.
Thank you so much, Anthony, and welcome to everybody who's joined in. So, yes, I'm Suresh Ramdas. My pronouns are he, him, his. And so I work at HP. I'm also a corporate inclusion advocate for the LGBTQ plus community. Companies with diverse teams, have 19% of higher revenue as reported by Boston Consulting Group, and there are more like 70% of them are more likely to capture new market as per Harvard Business Review. We're also having people or companies having 1.7 times more likely to be innovation leaders in their market as per John Person, and 35% of the organizations outperform as per industry norms. This is based on McKinsey's research. Why should businesses really care? Right. So here we have Mark Kaplan, who is the president of the Dagobah Group, saying LGBTQ plus inclusion in the workplace is not about people's sexual lives. It is instead about their identity and the extent to which they will be included if they are open about themselves in the same way as heterosexual people are. Let me just talk about a few pointers on the business case, which I'll go a little bit in detail, which is, you know, any workplace that goes ahead and embraces a diverse talent, and also enables people to bring their whole selves to work will be employer of the choice. This also drives productivity and performance with increased levels of trust and engagement. We're always going to gain competitive advantage, right, by being a part of diverse and getting a perspective of inclusion, and which drives market innovation and market share. And lastly, how can we minimize risk and manage reputation, which is very key for any employer? And also, 87% of them are likely to accept a job in a company that is supportive of the LGBTQ plus employees.
So, from an organization's perspective, you save on it's you have a more productive workforce, attrition is significantly lesser,
Mhm.
and obviously, therefore, people are happier. You don't have to recruit to replace somebody who's left. You save money on recruitment,
Mhm.
training, and so on and so forth.
We know for a fact that nearly two-thirds of our population is millennials, right? And we are one of the largest millennial group in the world as well. So we need to kind of keep in mind, how do we really attract talent and retain them? As LGBTQ people, if you want our productivity to really go up, what is it that we really want from our companies, our organizations? First and most important thing is trust. Now, with that, there has been a lot of studies saying that we have 28% of the people lie about their personal life. And if an organization is not inclusive, then you can see that the productivity is really lost. Performance takes a dip. Also, 25% of them avoid people at work. Certain people, not everybody. Anybody who's homophobic or anybody who is not very open about who the other person is, then you can see that people really take a back seat. And lastly, 20% of them they prefer working from home, because at home nobody's going to question us for who we are, what we are, how we dress, how we behave, all of that, right? So these 4 points were very, very significant, and I saw and I'm like, so relatable. With all of this, look at the numbers. I mean, close to 1/4 of the population uh, you know really are not being their true self at work. For some reason or the other, it goes down. That's wherein productivity takes a big, big dip. Now, from an Indian perspective, only 28% of them are out to their managers, while 25% of them are out to colleagues. Every other business wants, to be better, to earn more money, and be better than their competitors, right? So with that, creating products specific for the LGBTQ plus community in any form, be it within the organization for your employees or for your customers, really talks a lot about your organization, right? So that's where it kind of falls in the fact that 71% of the LGBTQ respondents are more likely to purchase any product which is supporting the LGBTQ plus community. We are actually a $5 trillion market. We have the spending capacity. And, this is also called the pink money or the pink dollar, pink rupee, anything that you want to call it. It's pink. So it's all about the power that we really have to invest and really make things grow. You know, uh, Many people would see that during Pride Month, especially in June, companies just come up with rainbow and they come up with products which are very LGBTQ plus inclusive. Moment there's a rainbow, we will go buy that,
So,
right?
Suresh, one of the things that I guess it would be useful for businesses to keep in mind is the fact that quite a few members, even in today's day and age, particularly in India, of the LGBTQ plus community are still not out, right?
Yes.
And but they have the buying power, and of course they will exercise it in a manner that they think is best for their community. So I
Right.
mean, I'm just purely from a business perspective. Obviously, it makes tremendous business sense for an organization to actually be openly supportive of the LGBTQ plus community and say, look, we are supportive in what we do, in our
hmm
policies, in our hiring, in our training, in our retention, everything.
The fact that even the World Bank has put in the loss for GDP with regarding to homophobia at $32 billion. In 2016, I know that's quite a long time back. We don't have the latest figures, but this is a huge, huge number, and this was at a time when Section 377 was still there.
Which
hmm
the World Bank has put out there. So what you're saying is that basically this 32 billion number is an amalgam of let's say companies in different countries deciding against investing in India because of the
Yes.
perception of homophobia. Indian companies themselves losing out on productivity because employees are constantly chopping, changing, churning, leaving, not happy, or staying in the same place but not being happy and staying there, and therefore productivity drops by
Yes.
30%, 50%, 70%, whatever, right? So
hmm
it's a combination of all of these that the World
Yes.
Bank has somehow managed to put a number to, and said that in the year 2016 India lost 32 billion.
hmm
uh, India's GDP lost 32 billion on account of homophobia.
So here we have some recommendations. So I've got 4 top recommendations. Now, what you all can really do, right? So first one is about strategy and leadership accountability, which is very important. Communicate. I think that's very important. Communicate this specific strategy that you all come up with, either with your internal, external stakeholders. I love saying that make leaders, be accountable for the inclusion strategy for the LGBTQ plus community. It's very, very important, where they do call out the managing director, the CEO, writes conversations around the fact that, yes, we are wanting to be inclusive. And also, Northern Trust puts their strategy out there, talking about what is it that they're really working on and doing on. So I think when leaders bring this on, there's a big change. Even if people are not sure, not aware, they will start learning and understanding, because they're going to be questioned at some point or the other,
So,
right? So
Suresh,
Mhm.
I guess it would be fair to say that board of directors of companies should hold the chief executive accountable for making the organization more LGBTQ plus friendly, and
Mhm.
thereby this chief executive then pushes it down to
Yeah.
their team to say that, listen, this is the mandate I have, and you all are to help me execute on this mandate? So that would be
That
probably the
is right.
to sort of take it forward.
The second point is around policies, guidelines, and benefits. I know this is one of the favorite and the most interesting part, where a lot of organizations are like, hey, what do we really do on the policies and guidelines? We need to review the policies and practices which are very specific to India and make sure that they are in line with it can be external guidance or standards of best practice, both in local and global. Make sure that it is very clear and stated about equal opportunity and anti-discriminatory policies as well for India. Include a statement that you are an equal opportunity employer in all possible communications, be it your marketing, be it your external communications that you'll send out to your job, job descriptions as well. Put that out there, saying that we do not discriminate based on your sexual orientation, gender identity, and expression. Your policies of it's not only about having policies, but it's also about how do you handle those cases as well. uh, Policies is one thing, handling is a whole different process, right? Now you need to have a policy on how to handle cases which are with regarding to bullying or harassment or discrimination of the LGBTQ plus community people. How do you really handle them? Policies and guidelines also involve transgender community people as well, which is again categorically called out here because they are a community which needs that specific attention and understanding. Any benefit that you'll have, again, call it out and be very specific. It is for every employee in this organization can avail this benefit. If also for LGBTQ plus people and their partners and families. Wording, as I said, plays a very, very important role in this. Again, using gender neutral terms and language which is very appropriate, which I'll walk you all or I'll tell you all in this later uh, session, is that wording plays a very important role. So please make sure that these benefits or are extended to your LGBTQ plus employees, their families, and also their partners or spouses, which may include same-sex partners or unmarried partners of choice. Next, again, introduce measures, which is part of benefits here, to talk about how are you going to introduce measures to ensure the safe. Please engage with your medical insurance providers so that they extend all of these benefits to the LGBTQ plus people as well, uh, and their partners, right? So which is very important. Also talking about gender affirmation surgery, or the previously called as sex reassignment surgery for the trans people, but now it's called as gender affirmation surgery. You also have hormonal therapy for employees who are going through the transition. So can you add these as part of your benefits? Very important. Targeted benefits, which includes your counseling and mentoring aspects as well. Lastly, every time proactively and clearly communicate all these benefits. So here, with regarding to corporate culture and training, the thing is, again, it really comes down from a point where leaders really have these conversations. They really drive these behaviors. It's a culture change. It's a culture shift that really needs to go through. And how much can you really do? Proactive communication to foster an LGBTQ plus environment is, again, going back to the point of talking about it. Bring allies out there, because there are a lot of allies. Probably there are either their some of their family members, be it their brother, sister, cousin, whoever it is, probably is from the LGBTQ plus community, and they want to do more with their consent, right? Profile openly LGBTQ plus role models in India to demonstrate the value of your employees. You also have, events which are there to celebrate. I know June is already there as a Global Pride Month. This is, again, something I'm not sure how companies and organizations really look at, but I think that when you bring a different perspective, this is bringing diversity on board, on the table. Last but not the least, from this topic, I would say diversity and inclusion training to all employees. with regarding to LGBTQ plus people, and do these trainings for everybody. More so, I would say, targeted to the leaders first, and then go in for your HRs, your talent acquisitions, your hiring people, even some of your external vendors that you'll are having conversations with. These groups need to be trained. Even it could be your support staff as well in every organization. I know now the scenario has changed with COVID coming into picture, but how much can you really train? Who all? Try and reach as many people as possible. Diversity structure and measurement. Now, to point out around diversity structure, as I said, before, leaders should come with a strategy. Now, most of the times, HR professionals really take up this role of being, leading the D&I chapter as well, which is great. And in a lot of organizations, they ask people to voluntarily do this work, which is great, right? So can that be a little more structured approach? Can you have a D&I, and then you'll have, the various other branches or the pillars of your D&I, bring that, and, have a chairperson, co-chair, all of those structures, if you can bring in, wherein everybody has set roles and designation, that'll be great, because once you start doing that structure, then the the way things have to flow, the program's way it has to go, really goes very smoothly. Otherwise, it's going to be so unstructured, or it gets bottleneck into one person, right? If it's only one person who has to do everything, that becomes really difficult. So having a diverse structure is very important. And from an LGBTQ plus perspective, if you don't have out employees, um, try and look for consultants who can help and support you all. Otherwise, get that LGBTQ plus person, and ask them to lead, give suggestions, give ideas. All of that would be really beneficial here. Review and analyze the LGBTQ plus workforce data you collect, and to examine the workplace culture and D&I strategy. This comes in only when you are able to show those numbers, show those opportunities that you all have done, or the programs that you all have done, the success of that, and then bring back and see, what can we do better? How can we really go about with that? Right?
Great.
Yeah.
One aspect I just wanted to add is I think one of the pitfalls, particularly multinationals need to avoid, is applying a global template here in India. I mean, a lot of multinationals just take the template that they have there, and without any customization or localization, apply it in a country as different and
Diverse.
diverse as India is, right? So do you have any experience in those kind of sort of pitfalls that MNCs, any advice that you would sort of give, particularly for multinationals, because there's a tendency for multinationals to just import a template and just apply it lock, stock, right?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, I think that's what we have been doing. Something that is very easily done. Not only, I'll just take away from the LGBTQ aspect and a DNI strategy as well. If you look at it, in India, it's always been women, persons with disability, LGBTQ, which is kicked in. We don't really talk about war veterans. I know war veterans out there in the US and Europe is very heavily targeted, but we really don't do that. Then, if you look at it from religion, we don't have. With regarding to caste, we really don't talk about it. So I think, yes, we just take that template, whatever is available in the global, and apply it here. I would strongly, strongly recommend people to not do that. Indianize it, bringing those conversations on board with your global leaders, because they really don't have that perspective of what is happening in India. I think we as people from India should educate them and tell them, no, you know what, we need to add more information to this, because our structure is completely different. Even our, the way we work is completely different. Some of these inclusion ideas, I know it's a very broad perspective on inclusion ideas, but I'm going to, y'all can take this and put it across everywhere, but specific for LGBTQ, please drive this. Update your employee value proposition is mostly talking about your websites, talking about, with COVID being there now, everything is going virtual. So what are some of those tips that y'all can really do to start talking and being more inclusive, right? In your websites, go ahead and talk about your employee value proposition, showcase diversity and inclusion as one of your core company values. Now, this is all, some of those low hanging fruits, which is very easy to drive and easy to get them done. It is very important to really showcase your organization as one of the best workplace, in the region or in your country or in India, is by updating websites. Everybody goes online and wants to check what is your organization all about. So you need to start putting your diversity numbers and say that, yes, we're working on ABC programs, or this is your board of directors who are very diverse, or you have, X amount of gender, people with disabilities, and LGBTQ plus people. Put that number out there. It really, puts your company in a great place. So you need to create diversity videos and, have conversations with your employees, right? So I ask them to create short, sweet videos right now at home and put them out there and, showcase that out, everywhere possible, saying that this is how diverse our organization is, this is how we really perform, and this is what really matters. So as I said, a picture can tell more than 1,000 words. So use that. Again, picture, video, amazingly great. It works. Interview your diverse employees, right? So do that. Issue statements from leaders. Uh, Starting point, as I said, accountability, leadership, commitment. If it's there, then emails coming out from your leaders during important dates play a very important role. I think I'm going to ask you all to learn something from what's happening in the West now. In the US currently, you can see all the multinational organizations, the leaders, most of the leaders have put in, the Black Lives Matter conversation on the table. They have set communications and they send communications abroad, right, across the board. Now, if you have to take it from an LGBTQ perspective, then why can't leaders do the walk the talk for this as well? So a lot of companies, again, multinational companies, during the start of Pride Month, you do have leaders sending out communication. It sets the tone. Then if you're looking at from an India perspective, get the Indian leaders to send it out. You know what? It's Pride Month. We need to celebrate. Let's be more inclusive. Let's have conversations. Let's have a dialogue. Attend all their events. Attend some of the conversations that is happening. And for any further questions, reach out to that specific employee resource group and get more information. This sets a tone. It's very important. And I think with Black Lives Matter, established mentorship, again, this is more about how can you mentor your existing LGBTQ plus employees within your organizations if you'll have to become better leaders, like how you have for women to grow up the ladder. Why can't we have something for the LGBTQ plus community people? And there has been research showing that when you start mentoring people, specific groups people, there is retention, there is more conversations, and they do grow as well. Inclusive language. This is something that I know Anthony was also talking about, during our initial discussion, that we need to stress a little bit. So I'm going to take 2 minutes of your time here to bring that up. Some of these conversations or languages that we use now, we have ladies and gentlemen, which is used so commonly and very British. Guys everywhere, hey guys, what's up? Even when there is a room full of women as well, we still use that. Normal. The word normal, again, what is normal? So a person has an interpretation of normal as different for different people, right? So can we get better at that? Minorities, chairman, we have a lot of man in every of the, some of the big names. Then words like mothering, fathering, can we bring a change in that? We always talk about wives, boyfriends, girlfriends, husbands. So can we start including or being more inclusive and start using these words, people instead of ladies and gentlemen? So guys, teammates, folks, so this conversation came up, going to take 30 seconds, where a room full of people, there are women included, and everybody says, guys, it did offend one of the women out there saying that you are not treating me for who I am, or you're not accepting me for who I am. So this was a statement told by one of the women leaders addressing a group of people and said, hey guys, what's up? How's everybody doing today? At the end of the session, a lady walked up to this lady and said, how can you not give me that recognition? I'm not a guy, I'm a woman, right? So can you respect me for who I am and address me too? Because I felt completely out. I know there's a huge debate going around. It's okay, it's chill to use guys, but it's not inclusive, right?
Right.
Guys again is a very male dominated word, and this comes in from initial days of men always being there in organizations or offices, and that's how it all started, but it continued. Women went in. I guess they were not able to change it, but they just went with the flow by not pausing and saying, hey, you know what, I'm a woman, address me also. Right. But that really didn't happen. So women also started going around and started saying, hello, guys, and all of that. But I think we need to bring that change because people are standing up and asking that I don't get that recognition in this organization. So I think I would leave. And there are
Suresh,
people who have left.
it may not come as a surprise to you, but this is so heavily or deeply ingrained in our minds that
Yes.
when I was speaking to some of my female friends and I told them that, usage of guys should be replaced with something more inclusive,
Hmm.
most of them turned around and said that, I find it absolutely okay. What's the big deal about guys? I mean, it's inclusive. In our view, guys covers women as well. So it's the kind of the depth to which it has permeated into the way
Yes.
we have another guest today,
Yes.
Rishi Kapoor. He is a management consultant and a DNI champion. He's been actively working with SMEs and entrepreneurs by providing taxation and accounting services for over a decade now. Rishu is on the board of directors to RWS India's Diverse Chamber, affiliated by NGLCC, National LGBT Chamber of Commerce. He has been associated with Harmless Hugs, India's largest LGBTQ support group, which has its major presence in Delhi, Kolkata, and Mumbai, and also is the convener of Tarang, Delhi International Queer Theatre and Film Festival 2017, 18, and 19.
Thank you, sir, for inviting me and giving this wonderful opportunity. Hello, Suresh. It was great listening to you, though I know Suresh before, and we had conversations and chats on Facebook and other social media already. And it was great listening to him. And I really adore you for all the suggestions that you had. Trust me, I was making notes this time as well, like before that I was doing. Thank you for doing that. Yes, I am very thrilled by this topic of inclusivity as how we can bring this inclusivity picture into corporate scenarios. So there are many. There were. It was discussed that we are just adopting the Western culture out there and not Indianizing it. So one of the Western culture concept that we need to Indianize is workplace equality index. I suppose this Indian corporates are entirely missing this concept, and we really need to build this thing up. Like every day, experts are being hired, and all the corporates need to be taken into consideration whether they're inclusive. It's not a one-day thing. It's not a target that we have to achieve in one day, and we are inclusive now. Now the homework is done. Now we are inclusive. We can have that rainbow color logo. It is a continuous process. We need to understand this thing. Transition benefits are not there. For example, if a person is going through a transition, I'm a male. I'm born in male body, and I want to go for a transition. I want to transform myself from a male to a female, or maybe female to a male. Then uh, is there any benefits attached to it? Like, are we giving like women get the pregnancy off, 6 months off, or whatever off they get? Is there any kind of options that corporates are giving to the organization to the employees? No. Then when a person is getting transitioned, why are we giving them benefits? Why are we giving them maybe a little sponsorship? Like I remember Lalit Group of Hotels was being mentioned in the entire conversation that yes, Lalit has been very inclusive. Let me highlight one of my friends, Mohul, was being even sponsored by KSF for transition even. So that gains the loyalty. This is a very basic management concept. I would like to recall you guys that were being taught in 11th standard that a satisfied employee works dedicatedly. First, organizations just rainbow their colors, their logos, and say that yes, we are inclusive. And others, they do it, they just make policies just for the sake of having policies. They become government of India sometimes. We have acts, we have things, but actually are we executing? So my suggestion will be less of effort should be made on making the policies and more effort should be made on execution of it. Are we actually executing and taking the feedback from the ERG groups that we have? From the practicality and the execution point of view, things should be taken into consideration that uh, just for the sake of having policy, we do that, but generally follow-up things are missing in major corporate scenarios. We don't take the follow-ups of that. Yes, experts are being hired to make the policies, to tell how we can do it, but does that expert is continuously working? Is this because we understand this inclusivity and diversity as one target, not as a continuous thing? So we need to inculcate that in our culture from the top management to everything. That's not a one-day affair. That why do I have to celebrate my sexuality in June only? Why can't sexuality can be celebrated entire year? If you don't know the pronoun of a person, how to address, please ask. Instead, it is not bad. This is not derogatory to ask anyone what are the preferred pronouns. So if you don't know about it, just because I have long hair doesn't make me her. I have long hair because I like long hair, but my preferred pronouns are still he, him, and his. So instead of just judging how I look, I would prefer to be addressed as he, him, and his. Just this thing that I wanted to highlight. Thank you. I suppose any other question if you have.
Rishu, thank you so much. Thank you so much. This was again very informative, and I particularly like the point that you raised about being mindful of diversity and being more inclusive, even while procuring services or goods from the supply chain, which is something that if you want to be a truly inclusive organization, I think that should be also part of how your procurement policy as such, not just inward looking, but external as well. So yes, that's wonderful and very, very sort of enlightening actually.